What are some things you'd only know by growing up poor? How to keep a 7-year-old from knowing she's poor. My mom used to take my brother and I to the soup kitchen every week to volunteer. We must always be kind to those less fortunate, she'd say. Then, after volunteering, oh, it's so late, and I don't feel like cooking. Let's just eat here while we're here. This speaks volumes to me. When my sister and I were growing up before the age of 10, we were pretty bad off. Though we never knew it. Our parents were so good at not cluing us into it that we didn't even know until we were adults. We lived in rural Texas, and a couple times a week, my dad would come in and say to us, "I noticed a lot of people littering on the way home. We should go do our part to keep our community beautiful and clean." So we would go walk up and down the highway picking up cans and glass bottles. We would then take them to the recycling yard where we got to watch the cool machine shoot the cans at the big pile of crushed cans. I later found out we did that because we couldn't afford basic necessities and we were collecting recyclables, which the yard paid for by the pound at the time, so we could go buy a gallon of milk, eggs, and bread. My parents are my role models now, and I only hope I have been half as good a parent to my kids as my parents were to me. That is what I would do too. I would sit with my girls at dinner, they'd say, "Mom, why aren't you eating?" "Oh honeys, I ate while I was cooking." I always wanted to make sure they had enough. Those were some rough months, but we made it. I remember first time after those hard months I felt I could eat something too, a bit more. I had a whole can of veg soup and a slice of toast to myself, and it was heaven. I never will forget what those months taught me. Bless all of us on the grind. Hugs to all. When someone breaks into your house, but doesn't take anything. Happened once. Still think it's funny. I saw a story once, still unsure if it was real or not, about someone who had only an old mattress and a sheet in their tiny apartment. Some people broke in and saw that there was nothing, then waiting for the owner to come home. They told the owner what they were gonna do, but then realized how little the guy had. According to the story, the criminals then, over a few weeks, gave the guy a TV, a bed, a fridge, and some other stuff. He never asked where they got the items from. Your comment reminded me of it. So they acted as Robin Hoods. Stole from the relatively more rich and gave to the poor. Your dad asking you for $20 so he can go to work for the week, but he'll pay you back when he gets paid. I remember my dad breaking down in tears for the first time that I've seen and asking me for my birthday money so we could eat. I ended up giving it to him, never got it back, but he's made up for it by now. That birthday sucked, man. Edit. I'm so very touched by all of your stories. I decided to call my dad and tell him how much I love him and how grateful I'm for all the things he's done for me. We had a very heartfelt conversation that I'll remember for a long time. My sister's super poor right now and struggles to pay her bills and such. I try to help a little, but I can't afford to pay both their and my bills. 2 weeks ago my nephew had his 9th birthday. They couldn't afford to get him anything and everyone was super bummed. They invited me over for dinner, but their plans were $1 hot dogs and bread for buns. I ran to the store and grabbed a few pounds of burger, some chips, buns and a bunch of soda, and bought him a really nice RC car for his birthday. My sister keeps telling me she will pay me back, but I won't let her. I told my nephew it was from all of us and to enjoy it. Knowing the cheapest thing on the menu at every restaurant for when your friend's family invites you out to dinner. Even though you're not paying, you're programmed to only select the cheapest thing. My friend's mom said, "You sure like hot dogs? That's all you order, no matter where we go to eat." "I'm hungry, drink some water." We were probably the best hydrated children at school, Mayo. But I think the thing I appreciate most is the independence I've gained through fixing things to keep them going, or from just not wanting to ask my parents for help when I know they are struggling too. I grew up pretty poor, too. Single wide trailer in a swamp in the south. Lots of deer meat and beans, since we couldn't afford the grocery store. We went without electricity and running water for a little bit because we couldn't afford the connections to the lines. Government cheese. Doing your laundry in a bathtub using only cold water. BC the gas was shut off. Trying to spend the night at your friend's house. BC they had food and a warm room. Thanks Nikki. Loving going to school because you could at least eat there. Trips to Goodwill for new clothes. Showers at school, because at least 3 water was warm. Being made fun of because you smelled like kerosene. Having lice and no one doing anything about it. Going to school with bruises BC your parents took their shitty decisions out in you. I'm so grateful to a handful of people that saw potential in me. I went to college, got a great job, and broke the cycle. Thanks Tom and Tony. I used to work at a gas station. I looked the other way for a lot of shit. Everyone is struggling, and I don't give a shit if a kid steals a candy bar or gets a free IC. One man didn't have enough money for a lighter, so I said wait till I turn around. Go walk to the door, light the cig, throw the lighter on the ground, and walk out. How to do everything without money. Laundry gets done in the sink. Walking is cheaper than the bus. A shower is cheaper than TP. Torn clothes can be mended. Money isn't everything. Giving when you have extra is the best way to stay afloat in times of need. How people who have money treat you. I went to a girls only grammar school as I passed the exams to get in. There were girls whose parents wouldn't allow to come to my house. I felt lonely, worthless, and that sometimes your parents sacrifice everything they have, including their sanity, just to see you happy. And you only learn later in life the soul-crushing existence of poverty. Then you wonder how they managed to do so much with so little. I truly had no idea until I was in my junior year of high school taking child development that Head Start was a program created for children from homes of low income. I simply thought it was a place for me to get a head start as a kid. I still remember my teacher saying verbatim, "No honey, your family was just poor," in front of the whole class. My mom could somehow cook 2 chickens on a Sunday and feed 6 people a week. Towards the end it was more just corn chowder cooked and chicken stock, but it was dinner. Also we kept a garden. You didn't work the garden, you didn't eat. Sit down on a summer evening. Better have a bowl in your lap and be shelling, stringing, or shucking something. Feed the hulls to the neighbor's pig, because she'll save a ham for us. Not being able to do extracurriculars. I wanted to be in orchestra and I wanted to play soccer, but we couldn't afford it, so I was told no. Couldn't afford the uniforms or the gas to get me to practice, and definitely couldn't afford a violin. I ended up moving to a largely upper middle class area for college. First boyfriend was rich. He played 9 instruments, and played soccer, and went skiing, since age 6. He voiced that he thought I was lazy and untalented for not having done at least a sport, or learned something like guitar. I explained that we couldn't afford it, but that didn't seem to register. He tried to give me his old violin at one point, so I could learn, and his mother pretty much ripped it out of my hands. We got so much of that cheese. A few years ago I stopped in a Hostess bread store in a poor neighborhood. I was the only white guy in the store, and while waiting in line, other people started talking about the government cheese. And I said that my family got a lot of it, and we liked it. Everyone goes quiet, and looked at me. Then someone says, "We thought that was just for black folk." And I said, "No, we got it too because it was for poor people." And then we all started talking about the cheese.